gentlemen, welcome to Rams Revealed, and I hope this episode finds you and your loved ones in good health. My name is JB Long. Really excited about today's guest who makes his first appearance on the podcast, fan favorite Cooper Kupp. But first, a bit of housekeeping. Thank you to everyone who listened to our conversation with safety John Johnson and then took the time to rate and review. The response was more than we anticipated, truthfully. So what I did is I took the first 10 reviews that were sent to me. You all have Rams care packages heading your way. I'm literally taking Amazon and Target boxes as they arrive at our front door, unpacking them, putting some Rams swag in them, and repacking them. I'll make a run to the post office maybe later today or tomorrow. Unfortunately, my supply's been exhausted. My wife is thrilled about that because I've cleaned out a good portion of a closet in my office. But I did want to shout out a few other folks whose reviews trickled in later and say thank you specifically. I do hope to hook you up next time there's an opportunity, and certainly we appreciate your support. So Christian, Jesus, Tim, Dylan, Jeremiah, and Charles specifically, really thank you for taking the time to rate and review. And with that, let's keep the Rams Reveal momentum going with Cooper Kupp, who is coming off a career year. Receptions, yards, touchdowns, catch rate, you name it. All this after rehabilitating a surgically repaired knee. We welcome the fourth-year receiver to Rams Revealed. Cooper, how are you and your wife and your son?
We're good. Just enjoying home.
You know, we both spend a lot of time at work, on planes. I wonder if you share this sentiment that I've kind of been experiencing. I hope and I truly believe we'll look back on these times and tell our kids that they were the best family moments of our lives, or at least some of them. Is that your hope too?
I don't know. It's obviously not the circumstances you prefer to be with your family, but to be with your family, you have the opportunity to spend this time with them, and really, there is nowhere else to go and nothing to do, but you get to be with family. And I think hopefully it's something. I'm lucky that I look forward to being able to spend time with my family. I love being able to wake up with my son and just start the day with him, and it's just it's special. And I think hopefully this is something that comes out. I'm hoping that at the end of this thing, there's people that realize just how special they have it, that they're surrounded by people that love them, that they kind of have an appreciation for the people that they live their lives with, but may not know as well as they think they do.
Yeah, really well said there. I know you're from a different portion of Washington, but since Seattle has been kind of the epicenter of this outbreak on the West Coast, I just want to check, are you and your friends and your loved ones all healthy? Everybody doing well in your circle?
Yeah, my family's doing well. There are I think at this point, just about everyone knows somebody that has had to go through, dealing with the coronavirus, and we are no different. There's people we know, and but of everyone we know, just about everyone has recovered or is recovering, and we feel very lucky in that regard. And I think we're doing all right.
Yeah. That includes your teammate, Brian Allen, who became the first known member of the National Football League as a player to test positive for COVID-19. Were you able to touch base with him? It sounds like he's on the recovery.
Yeah, it sounds like he's doing well. I haven't been able to talk to him yet, but he's very glad to hear that he's recovered now, that he's made it out the other side of that thing. So, very, very happy to hear that.
Who's throwing you passes during this safe-at-home season?
My wife actually got a pretty good arm on her. She threw the javelin in college, so she can throw the football pretty well. Only problem is she's a lefty, so the ball's spinning the opposite direction. It's a whole different animal. So eventually here got to figure out a creative way to connect with Jared and be able to catch some passes.
How far downfield can she stretch it?
Oh man, if you really asked her to, I bet you she could go. Oh man, I'm gonna put her on the spot here. I'm sure she's gonna get asked to prove it. So I'm gonna say she put not NFL ball, just from this hand size it'd be a little difficult.
Sure.
But I'm gonna say if you could give her 35 to 40 yards if I get
impressive.
I might even go 45 if I get to choose the football.
Maybe that can be your next Instagram family video, because I saw this family quarantine challenge that scared me. Scaring time was the hashtag. It looked pretty intense. What was that all about, and is it still ongoing?
No, I don't want to remind her that that's something that's happening. That she started that whole thing, and I hate being scared. It's one of my least favorite things, and she loves it. I mean, I'd say we're at a point now. We're probably 3 times a week where I'm getting like jumped out at from around corners, from closets, from drawers. It's it's not something I enjoy, and so that's all I'm going to say. I don't want to encourage her to like continue to do that. So
no, I think that's smart on your part. Yeah, hopefully it slipped her mind. I mean, do you guys conflict in terms of watching scary movies? Because I'm with you. Like, I don't understand the concept of volunteering to be uncomfortable and scared for 2 hours.
We don't like scary movies. We don't like scary movies. She just likes scaring me. That's all it is. I hate scary movies. I can't stand scary movies. She doesn't either. So, it's strictly her getting enjoyment from seeing me jump out of my skin.
Yeah, because she's not scared. It's easier for her.
Exactly.
Yeah. Hey, Cooper, what's your level of optimism currently about playing sports again this calendar year? I guess the headlines are kind of continuing to mount. And have you given a moment's thought to the possibility that there is no 2020 football season?
Yeah, so, it's tough. I mean, just if we talk about just news in general, try to start limiting how much I'm actually looking at the news, because it's very easy just to get overwhelmed, to just see so much negativity. That can be really, it can ruin your mood. It can kind of put you in a pretty bad place. So try to limit that, and just really trying to lean more towards the side of hope, that there's hope for us to come out the other side of this thing. There's a light at the end of the tunnel, that there will be a sense of normalcy that can resume sooner versus later. And obviously we don't know what's going to happen outside of, a few weeks at a time. You get updates on where things are going to be. So I think looking anywhere past a couple weeks is really, there's nothing for us there to look at. But I'm going to continue to have hope that there's a light there, that there's going to be some sense of normalcy. And as we reach those points, as we get to that place where the season is approaching, and if it isn't what a lot of people are hoping that it will be, that there will be a normal football season, you take that in stride, and you're ready to adapt to it. But I'm going to continue to lean on the side of hope, that there's going to be something, that there's something there for us.
I appreciate that perspective. That was really good. And I think that's part of the reason why we appreciate you and some of your teammates taking this time to give our audience something else to think about, and just give them that light at the end of the tunnel, to hear your voice, to see your face in some instances.
Yeah.
We're now a week removed from the Brandon Cooks trade, and I wonder how you're feeling about a friend and teammate being traded away from your organization.
Yeah. Man, so, just from first, just as a friend, as a person, it hurts. It's hard. It's hard to see your friend go. Todd as well. You, as a human being, as a person, I'm going to miss those guys in the locker room, in the meeting rooms. Being able to just, the time that we got to spend together, I think it's a pretty special thing. The thing is that the humans Todd and Brandon bring to the facility outside of all the football stuff. They're quality people that lift up people around them, that bring a great. They bring joy into everything that we're doing, and they elevate people around them. So that part is, again, I'm gonna miss them. And my wife's very close with Brandon's wife Bree, and we're essentially, our friends are going to be moving away. So that's really tough. And then obviously incredible football players that you're going to miss, and that I don't need to say much on that, because everyone knows what we're going to miss with those guys. But I also believe in the guys that we've got as well. I think we've got some really good receivers in our receiver room. We've got some running backs that can do some incredible stuff with football in their hands. So really excited. But whenever we do get back out there on the field, excited to be able to go back and work with these guys. And we're ready to. Our expectations haven't changed. Our standards haven't changed. If anything, they're continuing to elevate. And that's just how we are. That's how we attack things day by day. And so in terms of that, it's back to work.
I like what you said there about expectations, because I think the virtual consensus will be that the West is stacked from the top down: 49ers, Seahawks, Rams and Cardinals. There might even be a few people bold enough to take Kyler Murray and the Cardinals ahead of the Rams, just seeing, some of the realities that you just mentioned there. What's that feel like from the inside? I mean, it almost has more of a 2017 vibe, your first year in the NFL, where the Rams were the hunters rather than the hunted.
Yeah, well, everything, when I'm talking expectations, whenever I talk expectations, it's about the expectations inward going out. We judge ourselves within the walls that we go to work in. Outside of those walls at the facility, outside of where we work, we're outside of our team, none of those other expectations matter. Those kind of fall by the wayside. But the expectations we set for ourselves, the standards that we set for ourselves, and the habits that we take into the facility that we go about our business day by day with, that's the things that we're going to judge ourselves by. And anything else, any narrative that can be created outside of those walls doesn't matter to us. It's about what we do. It's about us being on the same page. And so anything that anyone else, any other narrative, it's really, for me, it's not even worth talking about because to me, it doesn't exist.
Yeah. You also referenced what the receiving core is left with. You, Robert Woods, Josh Reynolds, all proven talents. I wonder what a rookie would need to demonstrate to crack that rotation. And this is regarded as a historically great receiver class in the draft. How hard will that be if a rookie receiver's not in the huddle with you until whenever training camp occurs to break into that group with what he'll have to prove on and off the turf?
Yeah, well, I can only speak on my own experience and how invaluable it was every single rep in adjusting from college to pros and understanding what you were going to be asked to do and the nuances of the NFL game versus the college game, and understanding defenses, understanding how you wanted to attack DBs who were no longer on islands a lot of times, but they're on islands. They understand where their help is. They understand the game. They understand their coverages more fully, in my opinion, than a lot of college defenders do. And so being able to, understand those nuances. I mean, for me, that was an invaluable time. And so those guys that are incoming, I think it's going to take that much more to, be on your P's and Q's. Like, you wake up in the morning when you usually be going into the facility, you got to be finding ways to force yourself into a place where you can adapt, if not physically, at least mentally, be able to see the things that are happening at the NFL level and put yourselves in those situations, how you would attack them, how you would attack DBs, how you would attack these safeties, where your zones are based on these coverages. And, it is going to be a tough thing, I think, for a lot of these rookies to do, but by no means, I think, is it impossible. We're really honestly excited about whatever happens. It does seem like there's a lot of really good receivers coming to the league this year. Excited to see what some of these guys can do.
Yeah, the terms of the virtual offseason program were just agreed to by the NFLPA last week, and so teams can hold voluntary classroom instruction, work out remotely, non-football educational programs using online platforms. Do you sense there's maybe a competitive advantage to be gained for teams that handle these circumstances the best? Maybe those that have either the highest player engagement or those players who retain the most from those channels of development?
Yeah, but okay. Yes, I completely, I think so. But you also got to think every team goes through an off season, and I think just as any off season would be, there's a competitive advantage to who handles the off season best, whether it's virtual or whether you're in the facility. If you're not going about your business in the off season, you're not taking that seriously. If you're not stacking stones to allow you to hit training camp running and building and continue to build on that foundation. If you're starting from scratch from training camp, that can be a really tough thing. So, and now I think there is, like you touched on, maybe a little bit more of an importance on it, just because there is an uncertainty. This is something that people haven't done before. So I do think there's something to saying, there's going to be a lot of games won, I believe, in the next 3 months, based on what people are able to handle this thing the best. The guys that can keep their bodies in the best shape, that can build themselves up, prepare themselves for the season, that can be on things mentally to make sure that come that time when you are finally back together, that you're ready to go, that you're not having to completely relearn an offense because you just haven't been in your playbook for a full year or for 9 months. There's going to be, so I do think there's something there that there's going to be, I think, a lot of games won by guys that prepare the right way these next few months.
Those who haven't been inside the Rams facility, there's a policy like there is throughout professional sports of no cell phones in the meeting rooms, right? There are these stations where you can dock your phone and charge it your device while you're in learning and with the coaching staff. Cooper, you're going to have to let us know how coaches try to limit distractions and keep your attention in this format, because I envision guys making sandwiches, raiding the pantry, fending off kids, all those kinds of things.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. And there is something about, I think the year that my son was born, I think we had 11 kids born on the Rams. So there's plenty of kids that are going to be running around, I'm sure. I'll keep you updated on that.
10 months from now, there might be another gang of kids running around giving this old stay-at-home measure. But you're coming off a career season, and I want to talk a little bit about 2019, just looking back. Because coming home from London, Cooper, it seemed like you were destined for all-pro honors. It was just a phenomenal first half. But my memory was that there was some mixed opinion about the second half of 2019 individually. And what I mean by that is you had, I think, 220 in that game in London alone, and then 270 receiving over the next 7 games combined. But to be fair, you also finished the year with touchdown receptions in each of the last 5 games. So looking back on it yourself, what do you think changed? Were defenses rolling coverage to you? Was it a matter of fewer snaps as you got into more 12 personnel? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I think there's a ton of things that come into play. I think there's everything that you've touched on, I think, is a part of how the second half of the season turned out. And obviously we didn't do what we wanted to do last year. I mean, there's no getting around it. Like, our expectations and our standards for ourselves are much higher than how we performed those last season in general. There was just some things we definitely wanted to improve on, to do better, and we didn't. And that goes for myself included. Like, there's a lot of mistakes, a lot of things that I want back. In terms of the second half of the season, we did. I mean, there's things that changed offensively. We were trying to figure out, how can we be most effective? What can we do to be most efficient? And efficient doesn't always mean, one person carrying the team. It doesn't always mean that efficient doesn't always mean a 220 yards. You talk about the Cincinnati game where yardage-wise, things look good. There's a lot of things that I want to do a lot better that game. I don't know as an offense if we were the most efficient in that game, just even though I had a good game,
right?
Physically, so stats don't always match up with what's best for an offense, I guess. And our whole goal and my goal going into a game is, how do we make sure that we are as efficient as possible? How do we make sure that when we walk off the field, that there's a W, in our win-loss column, and all this other stuff. And I mean, that stuff's rise and fall. There's going to be games that are really good. There's going to be games that look really bad statistically. But as long as we're being efficient, as long as we're doing what we need to do, and snap in and snap out, I'm helping the team. Whether that's by making a catch or drawing coverage, I don't care one way or another. I just want to win games. And so, there's a lot that goes into that second half of the season as we're trying to figure out what we're going to be as an offense still. What was our identity going to be as an offense? And that's not something you want to be searching for, I think, in the second half of the season. But it's something that I think is kind of on the forefront. We've gone through that season now. I think we learned a ton, and now we have an off season and potentially an extended off season to be able to figure that stuff out and be able to lock it down and figure out how do we be an efficient offense that can put up wins.
Was that touchdown in London against the Bengals the favorite play of your career so far? Or do you have another one that tops it?
You're talking about the reverse pass?
Of course.
That one was really fun. That was just because, from the moment the play is called, once the play is called, you can tell everyone's excited. Like, if we've got a chance for a really cool play. So that was really fun. I'm sure there's more memorable ones.
How about week 2 against the Saints, the near touchdown?
Near touchdown. I don't think Jared's ever going to let me live down getting tackled on the half-yard line on that one.
I still want them to go back and change it.
I think I was short. I think I was an inch short, and just I don't want them to give it to me just because they feel bad for me. on it.
Yeah.
But that
you know what I like about that one though, Cooper, is that I think yards after catch is probably the thing that defines the receiving core in the Sean McVay era the most for the Rams. I mean, it's consistently been a strength. Do you mind just like taking us inside that element, how you rep it, the emphasis that Sean McVay and you guys put on it? Because across the board, I mean, I think that's maybe the biggest reason, at least with respect to the receivers, that you guys have succeeded through 3 years.
Yeah, well, I think it's urgency. Urgency. I mean, you catch the ball. It's how quickly can you catch the ball and get upfield. You catch, turn, get vertical, split two, get past defenders. I think a lot of times guys will catch the ball and dance, and the guys are so fast. If you catch the ball and you don't move, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. So I think one is just the urgency of catching the ball, get your foot in the ground, get vertical as fast as you can. And, usually a lot of good things can happen from that. There's also an element of being able to trust Jared. In our offense, we catch the ball consistently with our backs, turned to the defense.
Right.
And trusting that Jared's got the accuracy, that he's going to put the ball where he wants it to be, and he's going to be our eyes for us. And he's going to put it on my left shoulder. I'm turning left. He's putting it on my right shoulder. I'm turning right. And trusting he's not going to throw me into a bad situation as well. I mean, we've just continued to build a good rapport in regards to being able to trust each other, and that makes a huge difference. If you can cut off milliseconds in your decision making, that adds multiple yards onto what you can do with the ball.
I have to say, you must have been a pretty decent high school hoops player. I know it's in your background because you don't get enough credit for your crossover. You take some ankles at the top of your route.
Yeah, well, I did what I can. We had a pretty good hoops team. I wasn't known for my crossover on the basketball court, but I've had it on the football field for a while.
Speaking of Jared, what do you think of his quarantine mustache? Does that have staying power?
I have not. I'm not aware of his mustache.
You're kidding.
He must not have had the camera close enough to his face for me to notice it.
Oh, you got to check it out.
I'm sure.
The two most popular headlines of the week for Jared Goff are that he's willing to restructure his contract to make salary cap space, and that he has a mustache that's going pretty strong here in the month of April.
I'll have to call him up after this and see what that's. That needs to not be there.
His chip shot from the home golf course is pretty impressive too. I didn't realize he golfed left-handed. That was something else.
I didn't know about that either.
Yeah, you're doing a good job staying off social media. I'm impressed. You really are focused on the family. Good for you.
Yeah. That little chipping green in his backyard has caused more problems than being an asset for him, I think. But
one more thing, and then we'll let you get back to your kiddo and the rest of your quarantine. We had this conversation with John Johnson last week, Cooper. You were in the same draft class of 17. You've both clearly earned a second contract with your performance to date. How would you like to see that play out over the coming months?
It's tough right now. You obviously you want to be able to secure yourself. I want to be with the Rams. I want to be able to make sure that there's security and being able to come back and play for the Rams for a long time. And that's something that I would love to do. My family loves it here. But at the same time, there's a lot of stuff going on in the world that I think is a little more important to be focused on than trying to dive in for getting a contract done before it really is natural to get done. And we're not going to force anything. My focus right now is just being with my family and being able to prepare myself for the season ahead. And outside of that, it's what everybody says. Like, it's going to take care of itself, and
right.
I believe that it will.
One follow-up to that, because I think you had an interesting decision when you were at Eastern Washington. You were there for 5 seasons, right? You had the redshirt year, but you returned for a senior year in which you smashed FCS records. I mean, you were already going to be a special player in that school's history, but now across the FCS, your name is everywhere across the record book. But now you're approaching your second contract, and you're coming up on your 27th birthday. Do you have any reflections on whether that was the right choice to go back to school, or would you rather be a year younger and make another year of professional money?
I think there's a few layers to that. One, 27 is not old. I refuse to believe that like 27 is old. So I'm not ever going to
try 37 on for size, buddy.
I'm not ever going to let anyone convince me that 27 is old. First off, but going back to my decision at Eastern, that was a very difficult decision for my wife and I. I set a deadline. Like, okay, we're gonna make our decision on Monday, because the team meeting was gonna be Monday. I'm not like going into this thing without, like, if there's a team meeting Monday at 3, we are gonna know whether we're a part of it or we're not by then. And I woke up Sunday morning. I was like, Anna, we've been praying about it for weeks now. Like, I think it's time I think we're gonna leave. I think that's what God's telling us to do. I think that's what's right. And so Sunday is like, okay, well, we're leaving to the NFL. And then we prayed about it again all Sunday night. I woke up Monday morning and we both were like, no, like, I'm supposed to stay. It was just very clear. And once it was made that clear to us, like, there's no looking back. I'm not going to second guess, what God spoke to Anna and I at that time. We trust that His plan is perfect for us, and it's not about being able to maximize our age and our time in the NFL. It was about this is where we needed to be in Cheney for another year, whether that was for the people that were there, what we were able to do that year as a team. We made some incredible friendships with people that I'll never forget. We have a family that in Cheney, Washington, the Masons are an unreal family up in Cheney, Washington that we got to know really well. And it's just one of the most genuine and generous families we've ever met. And to think that we almost missed out on the opportunity to be able to meet this family and all their kids that's something I couldn't imagine having left and missed out on that. So there's always a reason that you're told to be where you're supposed to be, and it's not always about money. It's not always about what you'd imagine it might be. But in no way am I going to second guess our decision to stay at Eastern.
We're so glad that you and your wife made the decision that you did, because had you gone in 16, in all likelihood, you would have been a member of one of the other 31 teams and not the Los Angeles Rams. So it played out perfectly. We are out of time, which is good for you, Cooper, because I was going to leave you with an unfair question. Can you name either the kickers the Rams signed last week? Okay, but you don't have to worry about that now.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
And the second question was going to be, can you pronounce Liram's last name? We'll save that for another day. We appreciate all your time. We hope you had a beautiful Easter weekend with that great family of yours. Don't let your wife scare you on Instagram. Make sure she's just throwing good passes downfield. Okay, Cooper?
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You will. Can't wait to see you again.
All right, have a good one.
Before you go, please do take a moment to rate this podcast and leave us a review if you haven't already. And if you made it this far, give us a shout on social media. It's been fun to see those who have made it the duration. If there's anything else I can do for you during stay at home, please do reach out. Would love to connect. For now, thanks to Cooper Kupp, Matt Israel, Jory Hirsch, and I am JB Long. This is Rams Review.